Coming off the back of Final Fantasy 15, the mainline series was in a bit of a precarious position. Not in the sense that the games might disappear or anything like that, but it was more so, where do Square go from there? In a lot of ways, Final Fantasy 15 was the culmination of a decade-long project starting back with the Final Fantasy 13 series. I'm sure some of you even remember when it was called Final Fantasy Versus 13. That's a whole different video, and I'm sure you can find plenty about it on YouTube. But regardless of what it was or started as, Square went all in with Final Fantasy 15 in a cross-media promotion and branding. How successful and the quality of each individual thing is up for debate, as is whether you like the games or not, but the reality is the general sentiment was that for as much good as there was in the game, there was also a lot that wasn't liked about them, and perhaps even more so than there was good. So after they went all in on that, the question was, where do they go next? Now we're finally getting our answer. To those who have been glued into the development, you're probably less surprised by what the demo gave us in terms of content, but as someone who's going in completely fresh, what we were given was, in my opinion, amazing. The story feels incredible and rich in the little bit that we've gotten. I mean, by the end of it, I was genuinely shocked. I'm honestly kind of shocked they showed even the brief amount they did in that demo. You know, when we first got the trailer a few years ago, I saw Yoshi P attached, I saw, what they were showing us, and I kind of had a feeling it could be something special, but I was just completely blown away. There's a maturity to the story that is refreshing without being crass and delving into being over the top or edgy and, kind of straying into full Devil May Cry area. It stays in its lane as a fantasy game. For example, when they curse, it sounds like natural dialogue, in my opinion. There's very obviously an influence of Game of Thrones on the setting of the game. I personally don't see that as a bad thing. If you're going to combine Final Fantasy with Game of Thrones, to me that sounds like a fantasy genre dream. And make no mistake, the setting and backdrop of this story draws you in. I think the real-time lorebook that you can access at any time, even in cutscenes, is such a convenient tool. From what we saw in the demo, I think this is so much more accessible and smart than, say, picking up pages that has world info and then you have to go through a whole series of menus and navigate the tabs just to read about what you just picked up or read up on character lore. Maybe some version of that exists for combat tips, but as far as in-game lore about locations, factions, and characters in a given scene, I think this is a nice little touch and maybe more people will end up reading them than would have normally. The gameplay, well, unfortunately I can't comment from a hands-on perspective as I'm without a PS5 currently, but from what I saw, it looks like a lot of fun and like it has the potential to get extremely creative depending on how you spend your skill points. Given that the man who worked on the combat also worked on Devil May Cry's combat, that isn't wholly surprising. I think the notion of having open world sections and areas that you navigate to on the map is a great change. In my opinion, it's obviously a reaction to Final Fantasy 15. Open world games are great. I love them when they're done right, but they don't have to be forced into every game. Once Yoshi P and his team figured out the story they wanted to tell, they narrowed it down and decided they didn't need to have a seamless open world, and I respect that, honestly. I mean, we've seen so many times now, you could easily see a scenario where a studio's head says a game must be open world, and then that forces the devs to base their whole game around that, leading to an overall lackluster experience as a whole. Now, I'm sure there are elements specific to Final Fantasy games that classic fans might be disappointed in. I'm not sure overall, but in the demo at least, the party system as it's traditionally known is pretty much non-existent. Personally, that isn't much of a detractor if the story and characters are fleshed out, even if it isn't quote unquote the perfect Final Fantasy game. I think it's just going to be an amazing game overall. Square really have something special on their hands here, and I can't wait to see how the rest of the story unfolds. But what do you guys think? Have you been able to play the demo? Did you see the demo? Are you excited? Leave a comment below, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.